Hello, people. Hopefully, I'll be coming along more often to anchor the conversation on constructive followership, and the centerpiece is Africa. Um, you will believe with me that the quality of leadership has much to do with the quality of the followership, and Africa has as much bad leadership as you will have of followership. It seems to me that our followership is not as constructive as it should be. Hence, we have a political class in Africa that is leading their respective nations and societies willy nilly because they believe anything goes. Our followership in Africa is in two streams, the political and the religious followership. And you could see our cities are awash with blobs and posters announcing the new man of God in town, prophets. I mean, you could see the kind of anarchy that goes on, in the name of religion. And people doesn't seem to have a sense of direction anymore. The whole society of Africa seems chaotic. We seem to be moving so fast, on the age to the age of political and religious implosion. I mean, left, right, center. I mean, there is confusion, massive confusion. There doesn't seem to be any form of constructive leadership, both in the economic, political, and religious settings. And it comes back to us. What's the quality of followership? Why do you follow who you are following? Why do you go to church you attend? Why do you follow a particular political party? Why do you want to identify with a particular leadership figure or a political personality? Why do you want to vote for the party you want to vote for? Yes, it's possible that in Africa votes might not count, and the political institutions and elites may want to bring to power whoever they want to, but it's left for you as an individual to form a political opinion, to identify a particular political ideology and stick with it. And it doesn't really matter who wins or loses. It accounts for your personal dignity and sense of independence. And that's the point our politicians doesn't want us to come to, where we can make decisions for ourselves, have an opinion for ourselves, and be able to stand by our choices. That's what makes you an individual. If you collect money to vote for a particular person or a party, you are influenced, by the whims and caprices of the political elites. You're on the bandwagon of whatever goes. You're a bit less of a human being. Sorry to say that. What makes you an individual? It's your capacity for decision, capacity for independence. And that's where we are politically, where anything goes. People move from one party to the other. Today in Nigeria, it's APC, tomorrow PDP. And these are the kind of value system that underpins our social and political constructs. And we carry it into every gamut of our life endeavor. I just want to say to us that is not the right thing. I mean, look at the political system in the developed world. Here in Britain, there are people who have been in the Conservative Party for 50 years. Whether they win or lose, they stick to that party because wholeheartedly they believe in the ideology of that party. The same with the football clubs. People have been with Manchester United or Chelsea for upward of 50, 60, 70 years. It doesn't really matter. In fact, there's a particular team called Crystal Palace. I'm not sure they've come to any close to winning the Premiership, but people still identify with them because there's an ideological, fundamental, mental, and spiritual connection with the team. But basically, let's come back to the issue of religion. I mean, there's a mass of people who just follow religious personalities without understanding, the reason why. And that is the problem. We're having anarchy everywhere. Even in the time of Jesus, he was a revolutionary. I mean, he upset the religious, foundations established by the Pharisees. He was able to do that because he had knowledge. In the book of Luke 4:16 to 18, the Bible said he was always in the temple studying. He wanted to know, discover himself, understand his messianic role, why he came, the reason for his being. And he didn't just come because he was God. He had the knowledge, the revelation, the vision of why he came. And he was able to confront the Pharisees. I mean, because he had the knowledge, a visionary perspective of why God brought him to the earth. And the same way with the Berean Christians in the book of Acts 17, whatever they were taught, they went back to make a research of what was taught them. I want you to see from this perspective, you must have the qualities and values of vision, knowledge, and conviction as a follower. You don't just follow a man because your people are following him. You must know where the man is leading you to. Does it in any way align with God's vision and perspective for your life? Many of us are in churches and they are suffering because that is where they've been compelled to go for one reason or the other. You have to be in a place that aligns mentally and spiritually with God's purpose for your life. And that is why you see some people who call themselves prophets in Africa, they ask people to drink detergent, and they do so because they don't have a fundamental knowledge of the scripture. So knowledge is key. And I bring this back to say to us that one of the elements that is lacking in our followership in Africa is constructive followership. I'm not saying you have to question your pastor or organize a revolt against your pastor, but you must know God for yourself. I mean, God has opened the doorway for every one of us to access him. And that is why when he died, I mean, Jesus Christ died on the cross. The curtain of the tabernacle was, torn apart, which means all of us have a fundamental access, to knowing God by ourselves. I'm not saying we shouldn't have spiritual mentors or people who give us advice. I mean, hierarchically, in the spiritual world, you always have people who are greater, better, more knowledgeable than you. We can assess their knowledge and God-given talents and abilities, but we also have to decide our own relationship with God and his constructs for us as individuals. I mean, he has an individual path and destiny for every one of us. Most of us have mixed it. Because of the kind of massive followership, unquestioned followership. You have to relate with God on a spiritual basis of person-to-person knowledge. The Bible said in Romans 8 verse 16 that to as many as are led by the Spirit are the sons of God. Many of us haven't even come to the place of having a personal relationship with God, talk less of being led of the Spirit. On the day of judgment, I believe that God is going to ask us questions based on what we did with what he gave to us. That's aside. On the political front also, I believe the political class have used the instrument of poverty to destroy the quality of our followership. And I will say this to mean that if a man is poor and he doesn't have a means, he will possibly agree readily to anything. He can sell his vote. He can volunteer himself as as to be used by the political class, even to foment violence. We know people, who are willing volunteers to be used to foment violence and do mayhem, in the terms of elections. And that is also bringing to us to the fact that when you become a tool in the hand of politicians in destroying your own society, they have their children abroad already. They have wealth stored up for them already. The people who suffer the anarchy and chaos, brought upon by politicians are the common people. We have to be wise, even as the voting cycle comes on. We must be constructive on the person we are voting for and why we are voting for the person. There has to be an ideological position for us to vote. Why do we vote who we are voting for? Poverty has been a tool. When you go to the village, for instance, and call for a meeting, the people that comes to the meeting first of all, especially when it has to do with food, are the poor people, because they don't even have good time management. Wake them up 12 a.m., 12 midnight, they will come because they have nothing to contend for. Once they can find food, they can find people who give them one or two things, they will willingly and easily follow that person. But other than being practically or physically, there's also poverty of the mind, where we know next to nothing. Our mind is just empty. We don't have the mental focus or even the ideological focus to say no. You must not say yes to everything, whether you're poor or you're rich. It just have to do with the quality of your mental state, your person. Your dignity as individual. And I want to say this to mean that even if you don't have money, there is something left called dignity. That is who you are, your individuality, your sense of independence, your capacity to make decisions and stand by your choices. I have once worked with a very prominent billionaire politician, and I had to leave the employment because I didn't want him to control me. He said, "Steve, it looks to me that you are proud." I said, "No, I'm not proud. You hired me via, uh, um, you know, um, a consultant, and you asked me to come here to reorganize, revolutionize, transform this organization by the quality of your knowledge, But you have to give me free hand to do what I have to do as a professional. If you believe in my ability and talent to transform this organization, you don't have to control me." Well, he felt I was a bit too much of myself. I said, "No, if it's not working out for us, then I have to leave." Many people are held hostage in their places of employment because they feel if they leave, they have little or nothing to fall onto. That's what I refer to as poverty of the mind. No man, no woman, no matter how highly placed, has a key to your destiny. You have the personal audacity to say no to what you cannot take, and that is also the way the Western powerful world relates to Africa. They feel that Africa has no sense of audacity. Anything goes. They can control us willingly, and that is why we are poor. Anyone who is ideologically poor will be poor, practically and in every sense of the word. Yeah, we have a lot of things to say about China, enough negative things to say about China. But I can tell you one reason that China is where it is today, because it had the audacity to resist the Western stereotypes. It was able to cut out its own sense of personal and national independence. We must have capacity to decide who we follow, irrespective of the fact whether we are poor or we are rich. And let me just put together what I have said. One, The quality of the followership we have in Africa has a lot to say about the quality and outcomes of the leadership. We must be able to identify with an ideology, political ideology. Whether our vote counts or not, we must vote along our convictions, not based on political coercion by people who seem to have monetary or or you know in social influence over us. It doesn't have to be. We must be able to make up our mind who we are following and why we are following that person. On the religious front, we don't have to foment anarchy to press our points. What it says is that we have access to God. Our pastors and men of God are not our God. We have been influenced by them in terms of their spiritual talents and their knowledge of the word. That as far as it goes. We must decide the quality of our spiritual life, the quality of our discipleship by our relationship, personal one-on-one relationship to God. You must have people who oversee you, in terms of spiritual knowledge and counsel, people who pray for you, who has higher anointing and grace, who can speak into your life. Those things are there. We can see them in the Bible. But in terms of your personal relationship with God, because you have a unique destiny, you must have that connection, one-on-one connection with God. And that is where we stand in Africa. People who don't have personal identity, anything goes. You can follow anybody who calls him or herself a man of God. You can identify with any political party so long they give you money. That is living beneath the line of personal dignity. It has to stop. There are a lot of people who want to get married, young women. People are pushing them, you have to marry. Look, you don't have to marry any man. You must marry a man who you believe has vision and the ability to lead you to fulfill your own destiny and your personal aspirations in life. You don't just marry because your age mates are married. We have to be constructive in our choices. And that is where we are. We will carry on with the next aspect of our followership as Africans in the next video. Meanwhile, wrap your mind around some of the things we have said and think about them, and we'll come your way next time. Have a wonderful day.